So it's September 5th, 2020, and I'm Steve Roberts in Crossville, Tennessee, and we're having our third virtual mushroom foray for Cumberland Mycological Society. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go around the group here and share our mushrooms and just talk about them and identify them if we can, and talk about different characteristics that we might be able to point out about them. And so I'm just going to go around in the order that I see everyone here on the screen, and I'm going to start with you, Janie, because you're up there in my upper left-hand corner. If you want to pick out one of your favorite mushrooms of the day and show us what you've got.
This is a very short mushroom with a short stem and a decorative edge to the cap. And the stem is very small, and I have not had time to identify these, so I hope Jay and Rachel will identify all of them for me.
Was it growing on wood?
I think it might have been, but I don't remember, Dad.
So the top of the cap is sort of purplish or greenish?
No, it's just tan. It's tan with brown.
Gosh, I was hoping you'd work with me better, but okay. Check out Pholiota polychroa.
Okay.
Polychroa, growing on wood, fairly common. And the spores will be kind of dark. Should be, but if it's growing on wood, it's fairly common this time of the year, and lots of states, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee. So maybe Steve can pull up a picture of it.
So this book has it as very orange, but it polychroa obviously has got a lot of, can come in a lot of different colors. So this is
multicolored. Yeah.
And they have very short stem like this?
Yeah, typically they do. Yes, they do.
And very narrow too. This is small, I see in the book.
Okay, so that's a possibility for what you have. Pholiota polychroa, for those of you who are new, we usually use the Latin names because not all mushrooms have common names, and common names can be a little bit confusing because different things can be called different things in different areas of the country and the world. And so, you know, the Latin might be a little tricky, but once you get used to it, it gets easier and better. And I think really, I know for myself, I've been doing this close to 20 years, and for me, it's just repetition of hearing the things over and over, seeing the things over and over, and eventually it will start to sink in. So
she could also do a spore print and see if it was brown to dark brown or slightly purplish brown.
Yes, that'd be a good thing.
And Janie has a microscope, and she could measure the spores and see if they match those dimensions. Have you got?
Wow, that'd be even better. That'd be even better.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop the share on the screen, and
you're right on that.
So that was our first mushroom. So that's kind of how we do this. And I'm going to go. Well, I'm actually the next one on the screen, so I just want to show this little neat creature that Tony spotted in our flower garden in front of our house. If I can get up. I don't like to show tiny mushrooms because they can be hard to focus on. It's not doing too bad though, is it?
Yeah, you're too close, I think.
Okay.
That's not a mushroom.
It's not.
No.
Really?
I wouldn't call it a mushroom.
The definition of mushroom is maybe a fungus.
Call it fungi?
Yeah, I'd call it a fungus.
Yeah. So this actually, I don't think you can see it with a camera, but these little cylinders here each have they look like little eggs in them. So they look like little bird nests. So it's really a kind of a freak of nature, if you will. So they're called the bird nest fungi. And
What
this
are those
particular-
little things in there? Are they are they some sort of spore releasing mechanism, or what are those little eggs?
Yeah, so when
Jay?
the spores, oh yeah, so Jay, she wants you to answer, so I'll let
Well,
you
no,
answer.
you can answer it. I just didn't
No.
think you could. Sorry.
Oh, really? Go ahead, Jay. What happens when a
Okay.
raindrop hits those little spores, or those
They're-
little eggs?
Those little eggs are encapsulated spores. They're called peridioles, and they have a covering, and they cover, and all the spores are inside. Now, maybe the question to ask Steve is how do they get outside the little cup that they're in, because they're not forcibly discharged. So how do they get out of that little vessel that they're trapped in?
Well, like I was saying, raindrops might be one way.
I think so.
Yeah. At least that's what I've read.
I can't see that tiny print, but at first I thought it said this stinking bird nest fungi, but I think it says striking.
Striking bird's nest fungus
Okay,
is easily
striking,
recognized
okay.
by its shaggy to hairy exterior. By the way, this website we're pulling up is Michael Quo's mushroomexpert.com. I usually just do because I already know the name, I do a search for it, and that's a lot of times the one that comes up if they have, and there's other websites as well. So, okay, Jay, you're next if you want us to show us the mushroom you have today.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Let me see if I can, here we go. Okay. I found a mushroom in my backyard. I can pull it
Didn't have
up.
to go far.
What?
I say he didn't have to go far.
No, I didn't have to go far. It has scales on top. If I can hold it steady, not warts, but it has scales. And if you look at it, it has an annulus that's somewhat near the top, but more medium, I guess, in the location of it on the stipe. And perhaps importantly, if you look at the base is said to be ventricose, meaning, or spindle shaped, meaning it sort of narrows at the top, then flares out and becomes narrow again. It was growing on wood, which it's saprobic. Saprobic. A lot of times people find these in mulch, not necessarily growing directly on wood, but sometimes through mulch and everything. Spore print will be white, and if I scratch it on the stipe, it will change color. The stipe will sort of turn saffron color, and then eventually it will turn red, almost blood red, when it as the material oxidizes, as the stuff that comes out oxidizes. So it's starting to turn a little bit orange, saffron color. So it has many of the characteristics of the genus Amanita, but it is not an Amanita because it's saprobic. It was growing on wood. So anybody, I know Rachel knows what it is, and anybody else want to take a guess?
I think I know what it is because I
Probably,
found it before.
yeah.
Anybody else want to venture a guess?
Does it have something to do with a deer?
No,
No? Okay.
spores are white. Anybody want to see me eat it?
Let's
Okay.
see if I get this one right here, Jay.
I
Okay.
missed it.
Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Leucoagaricus americanus. It used to be
Lepiota.
Lepiota. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lepiota.
that's
Mhm.
what I was thinking.
And I guess the common name was the reddening Lepiota. So what do they call the common name now? The reddening Leucoagaricus? Or can we still call it the reddening Lepiota?
Boy, those common names, I
Yeah.
have trouble trying to remember them, Steve. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't
So
know.
yeah, the Leucoagaricus americanus is the, I guess the current name, as we'd say. Okay, thanks, Jay. That was a good one. When I first saw it, I thought that, just looking at what you were holding, I didn't know if it might be the Molybdites chlorophyllum, the green spored Lepiota we find growing in grass. And when you started saying that it was growing on wood, and then it was, that reddens with bruising, that led me to that. And I think that, that's one of the important things about when people just have a picture of a mushroom and that's all they have, and we don't know anything else about it, like what it was growing on, the substrate, or if we don't know some features that might be happening that might be unique to that mushroom, such as the reddening feature, then we might be missing out on some things that would allow us to give a proper identification on it. So.
Well, then since you mentioned that, Steve, can I show my?
Yeah, sure. And if somebody has something, that's related, we can certainly go out of turn.
So you're talking about where a mushroom is found, as well as the spore print color.
So that was probably in grass, wasn't it?
This is growing in grass, and this does have a green spore print. So that's what Steve was mentioning. I actually have a spore print here.
Are the gills, wow, see how green that is? You think it's going to be white because the gills on those actually start out white.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people get poisoned on those because that is one of the poisons. See, the one that Jay had is an edible. If you want to hold yours up, Jay. We don't talk much about edibility, but this is a good time I like to talk about poisonous things. You can see this is a very similar mushroom, but the one that Rachel's holding will make you sick as a dog.
Yeah, very common cause of mushroom poisoning.
Was that chlorophyllum molybdites?
Yeah.
Yes.
They make fairy rings too.
Yes, they do. In grass. So this was just on my front lawn.
Well, they're very beautiful.
So here we go, chlorophyllum molybdites. That's another one that's, of course, which ones haven't had name changes? Before it was chlorophyllum, I can't even remember. What was it, Jay?
It was called Lepiota morgani, I think, many years ago. It was in,
they were all in that Lepiota.
right.
They all bunched up and they got broken off. But there's the fairy ring that Janie was talking about. And you can see, so the gills start out white, as you can see up here. As they get old, they turn this eerie green. And so that's what we're learning to do, a spore print, where you take the cap of the mushroom and lay it on a piece of paper and let it sit overnight, and sometimes maybe put a glass or something over it to help create a chamber there for the spores to, maybe humidity develops in there and helps the spores come on down. And then the spores are microscopic, but once they're in mass like that and you've got millions and millions of them, then you can start to see the spore print, and the color can be, it can help you in the identification. So good. So yeah, if anybody ever has anything and wants to jump out a term because they have the same one or something similar, I don't care. We can do that. Okay, Sue, you're next.
Okay. This is growing out of an oak stump, and it's got a stem like this. The full-grown ones are probably as big as my hand outstretched. This one in particular is maybe 3 inches in diameter. And the bigger ones don't appear to have a stem, but this is the same mushroom, and this definitely has a stem. And this is the underside.
Right.
Is that in focus?
Mm-hmm. I can see it really well.
What color is the cap, Sue? Is it?
The cap on top is brown.
Okay. Can you take your finger and press close to where the cap is connected to the stem? Can you press kind of hard?
You mean like
on
here?
top, I'm sorry, on top of the cap. Yeah, take your finger where that little raised area is. Yeah, can you press hard?
It's pretty hard.
Still solid, okay.
Yep. Well,
Okay,
right behind though, it's starting to feel kind of spongy a little bit.
Okay.
Like
so
right,
the cap color, the cap color is just brownish, you say?
Yes.
It doesn't look like it has a varnished effect on top, does it?
No.
I don't see that, Jay.
It does look like a Ganoderma,
right.
It doesn't have that varnished look.
Yeah, the Ganodermas are usually categorized into two broad, different groups. One of them, they're called the laccate. Those are the ones that people call the reishi, that have that lacquered look like that. And then there's a non-laccate group. What you have is one that's in the non-laccate group. And I'm thinking it could be what's called Ganoderma lobatum, Lobatum, with a white margin. I don't know if Steve wants to pull that up or not. A lot of times the lobatum will have that soft, I guess, area where it's connected to the stipe. Yeah, where the stalk comes up and like that. That's why I was asking you to press hard.
Yeah, it's a little soft right there.
Right. So I'm thinking you may have what's called Ganoderma lobatum, is my guess.
How would this be different from an applanatum?
Yeah, the applanatum usually larger. They're usually grayish in the cap color. They usually get larger. And I think applanatum is a perennial. It can put on a second layer of tubes underneath, or pores underneath, I should say.
Okay.
So same group, just different species.
Yeah, now hers seems to have a stem, a little bit of a stem to it, kind of like you would find on the reishis. The applanatum typically does not have a stem. And
Correct.
I'm wondering, I don't know the lobatum too well, so do you know if it sometimes might have the stem, Jay?
Good question. I think so, but if it's not varnished on top, then it's not in the laccate group.
Now I'm going to guess too that this is probably another one of those. There probably are. There's a species cluster, and there's probably quite a few there.
So they're growing all around the trunk, the base of the stump, and the fuller grown ones don't look like they have a stem. They look more like a shelf mushroom, but this one is growing out. I mean, it's the same mushroom. It looks exactly the same, but this one was growing out further, and this was the smallest one on the stump.
Okay, thanks for that, Sue. And so what do you have, Sylvia? If you want to, you can do a screen share. And you're muted, by the way.
You're muted.
Yeah.
She knows.
Last night I went paddleboarding in the Biscayne Bay, which is salty water. And there's a little island. I'm going to show you a picture of the place once I show my screen so you can see. Just a second, sorry. There we go.
No problem.
There we go. So can you see there we go. That picture?
No, nothing's coming up.
No?
No.
You click on share screen.
Did you do share screen?
I did.
There it goes.
There
Now
it
we're getting it.
Yay.
So
Oh, how beautiful.
I paddleboarded to the island that is on the left, and it's fully empty and there's no animals on it. The island on the right is a bird sanctuary. So I don't understand because they're very close, but one is full of animals and the other not. But I found there, I was walking around, it's a very small island. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Photo?
Yeah.
Yes, can, yeah.
So in wood, there's only wood on the island. A lot is, as you can see, is lumber. I guess it gets washed out into this little island. So I found those over there. And I don't know what they are. So maybe somebody can help me.
Do you have a picture showing what the features are underneath those caps?
No, I didn't want to. I didn't want to pick them. So I don't know. I was surprised that it's such a salty and so sunny, and that these mushrooms were there. I was so impressed to find them. I couldn't believe it. So no,
Right.
I don't.
What kind of wood is that? Is that a hardwood tree, or it's not a conifer, I assume?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of wood is that. Is natural wood, I will say. It was
Well,
lumber. No, meaning like not cut, because there were pieces of lumber.
right. The problem is South Florida has so many almost tropical species of mushrooms and fungi, you know, it's just hard sometimes to make a guess.
So well, maybe next time I'll pick it, and for the next session I'll go and I'll just take them out of and bring them to the land and see what.
Or just take one.
Yeah.
You could take one.
Yeah.
But you can also, Sylvia, you can also, I don't know what the rules are in Biscayne Park about picking, so you might want to check, but you can use a mirror.
Yeah, the island had a sign that
Yeah, I'd be careful with that, but you can use a mirror to take a picture of the underneath.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
I take a mirror with me sometimes, and you can get with your iPhone, you can get the underneath.
Okay, I will do that. And
Yeah,
then so if
that would be good. Yeah, that would be good to show the features underneath. It's a polypore, it looks like, growing on wood decaying fungus, but really need to see what the color and the features are underneath the caps.
Okay,
Please.
and then this is on my driveway. I just
Oh, how cool is that? Yeah, we don't get those here.
So your neighbors got mad at you and they left that, or?
That's on my driveway. And I looked them up. I found the name. I'm not sure.
Right.
It's called, I don't know how to say this, but
Clathus, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never seen, I hadn't seen those before here. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Are those edible? I didn't want to touch it. It looks dangerous.
Can you say the name again more clearly? I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Clathurus rubber.
Ruber.
Okay.
Ruber.
Yes, it's 1B. It's CLATHRUS and then RUBER.
So you can see it's a stinkhorn, right?
Yeah.
You see the brown puddles?
So is this edible? Is it poison?
Well, some stinkhorns are edible, but I mean, I wouldn't
Usually the ones,
advise anyone to try it.
they eat them in the egg stage before they start to, the odor starts to develop, Sylvia.
Yeah. This was a bit flattened already when I found it.
Right. I can send you a recipe for pickled stinkhorn eggs if you want it.
All right.
It actually, it's in the Missouri field guide. It's in the back, but people usually only eat them in the egg stage, because once they start to mature, they get, as we say in the business, odoriferous.
Okay. All right. George, have you seen them in Florida before? No, George is not. You can't hear me. Okay.
No, but my my mushrooming is exclusive to the Cumberland Plateau.
Well, I'm not there, so what can
I'm very narrowly focused.
Okay.
I think
I've
that's a
never seen them
tropical.
here. No, I've never seen them on the Cumberland Plateau.
I think it's a tropical
Should we-
species, right?
Yeah.
It's rarely found in Knoxville here. I've only heard of one person finding it, so
Really? Huh.
I mean, it's maybe around, but I think we're probably it doesn't go much further north than us.
To go to the, why don't you go?
Right, well, that's what I got for today. Next time I'll make sure to take better pictures.
Oh, that's really cool, Sylvia. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that one.
It's cool.
So the Clathurus crispus occurs in Florida. Frequency in Florida and along the Gulf Coast, an outlandish and exotic-looking stinkhorn reminiscent of a red to pink wiffle ball, except for the god-awful stench that results from the brown spore slime that covers the inner edges. So it's similar to Cathis rubus, which appears in California and parts of Mexico. So apparently what she has, probably because of the locale, is the Clathurus crispus, I would say.
Okay. Good detective work, Steve.
Well, you know, I'm learning, we're all learning together. And that's one thing about mycology, none of us know everything. You know, sometimes Jay will act like he does, but he, you know, every now and then we catch him, but no, you know, we're all learning all the time. So it's part of what this is a shared learning experience. And so, okay, thanks for that, Sylvia. And you're up next, George. And you're muted.
George has figured out how to do
a
I need to
screen.
stop my.
That is cool. Cool background screen, George.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, I was muted. Okay, well, I'm starting with important stuff, which I hope is tonight's dinner. Should I put it on my whole screen or can we see?
I can see it fine.
Does that work?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have.
You know, the
I have
underside, was it white or was it yellow?
white.
White.
Beautiful.
Was it growing on a rosette pattern out from a tree stump or a dead
No,
tree,
it
or
was not.
growing?
It was not from the tree. It was a bit removed from the tree.
Probably on a buried root.
Yeah, hold on. Anticipating that important question.
Wow.
He's doing it like he means it there. What's the veil for?
Mosquitoes.
Oh, mosquitoes.
Now, if you could maybe design me a tick veil, we'll be in business.
Well, you need to come visit me. We have no ticks here ever.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
My secret, I can't tell you.
You
I-
use chemicals?
I have a never. I have a I have the rest of like another. We took about a third of it and left 2/3 for the animals.
Okay.
And I'm hoping.
Which
hoping that
animals? Which animals do you leave it for?
Ask Steve.
Because I don't know of any that eat it, but insects eat it. But I don't know of any mammals or anything that eat it.
A turtle might if he can reach it.
That's
Okay.
true. Okay. Turtle might. Yeah, you left it for the turtle. So how are
Well,
you going to cook it?
I'm hoping that it's Cincinnatus.
Yes, I
It
agree.
is?
Well,
Okay.
if it's the white pores, but it depends on how it was growing, probably.
Well, no, it's pretty. It's kind of foolproof. I mean,
Um,
it was growing.
to-
It was growing in a rosette
Just-
formation, probably
Yeah,
off
okay.
of a
Okay.
root.
Yeah.
Is it not that between the sulfur and the white port, it's not whether it's on the trunk or on the ground? Is that not the
It's the
feature?
color of the pores. Color of the pores.
It's the color of the pores.
But
I usually
let me
find.
tell you, but
Go
let me
ahead.
tell you something. If you're down in Florida, there's at least one other species and a lookalike to it. So be careful if you find something like that while you're down in Florida. Along the Gulf states, along the Gulf Coast, there's a couple other species down there.
And so
but
I don't know how I was going to cook it yet. Should I take it out of the refrigerator? I was going to eat half tonight and half tomorrow.
Yeah, that's beyond the scope of this meeting.
But
Fry it like a chicken, George.
leave it in the refrigerator.
No, fry it like a chicken. Bread it
But
and fry it like a chicken.
But I
They're
leave
very
it in the
good
refrigerator.
just in butter. Just sauteed in butter is very good. Salt and pepper.
But for
I've
storage,
lost control of this meeting.
no, this for storage. Do I store it in the
Yeah.
refrigerator?
yes, keep it in the refrigerator
thank
till
you.
you're ready.
Like one of your wax baggies that I sent you, those boxes, put them in one of those, yeah, and store
Yeah,
them.
Or a paper bag. If it's too big
Okay,
for a wax
well,
bag, you can
We
use
got
a
one
paper.
good one. All right.
You'll find that the edges of those that are more tender and usually better, and if you get into like, the middle of it, they may be tougher. So the edges of it cook up better, depending on the age of it. So yeah, those are nice specimens.
Yeah,
So yeah,
real
that's what they
nice.
call the chicken of the woods. So that is one that does have a good, I would say a suitable common name. This one's the white pored chicken of the woods, the Laetoporus cincinnatus. The other one we find here is the Laetoporus sulphureus, which has the yellow pore surface. This will be white. And I actually find that this one, the cincinnatus, to me is better, has a better texture for cooking than the sulphureus, but that's just my experience. Somebody else may have a different experience, but that's just what I find. Okay, so let's go to the other George. George Wright, the one with the beautiful mushrooms behind him.
These two little things here, they was hooked together there. They broke off, but it was
United.
yeah, it was hooked together there for, just for the meeting. And I brought them in here and they broke off. But
Were those lactating? Did those have some milk droplets on the gills, George?
have
Can you break the edge of the cap and see if it exudes a liquid?
it's moist, but not it's moist, but not exactly.
Oh, I saw a drip.
So if you take your gills and you rub them like this, are you going to get some lactation, some milk? You just gotta rub the gills like that.
It's moist, but it might be too far dried or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Are there some zonations on the cap, like rings on it?
Yeah, there's kind of circles around.
Circles, yeah. I'm wondering if he has the same one I have, Jay.
Which one do you have?
I think it's the Lactarius arga lacifolius.
Oh, his doesn't quite, I'm not sure. Yours kind of looks like that, Steve. Yours has a grayish cap. I can't tell what the color of his is. Let me go back to him. What color is the cap?
It's kind of tan, like kind of tan.
Okay. It doesn't look grayish, does it?
No.
Okay, I think his is different, Steve.
Okay.
Okay.
It might be Samicola like I had last time.
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah, the stipe is not short. Do you see any? Yeah, it's a diameter of the stipe is thinner.
And when
Yeah,
he
I'm
says
not
stipe, he means the stem.
Yeah, thank you. I can't tell without seeing some latex and the color change. Okay, George, it looks like it's got some discoloration on the gills. What color is the discoloration, the darker color?
The darker color looks maybe a little more brown like, or
More what?
kind of more brown than the others, kind of tannish, white tannish, and the darker colors look kind of brown.
Okay. The gills look really crowded on it, meaning they're really close together. I see features, and Steve's correct. It's most likely in the genus Lactarius, but I can't get really a handle on it, so to speak, to key in on species.
Could it be Lactarius fumosus? I mean, that's
Fumosus?
yeah, it can be pretty variable, but I know the gill stain like that.
Aren't those
Usually-
smaller? Or are they?
It has a thinner stipe like that, I think. I mean, that's, I don't know, one more option.
Mhm.
There are a lot of characteristics that you usually have to look at with Lactarius. Like Jay was saying, the color of the latex of that liquid that comes out of the gills, whether that latex changes colors, whether the gills stain, if there's a taste, all these different things.
Yeah, a lot of times you taste the latex, you put a drop on your tongue and it can be hot. And again, this is why someone takes a picture of a mushroom and says, what is it? Well, there could be a lot of things that we don't see in the picture that's going on. A lot of moving parts, really. But here we've got the moving parts, but we still can't determine. But very often just getting it like well, this is a Lactarius. Well, now we also have, they've broken it up or whatever, and there's also lactifluous. So it could be Lactarius, I guess. That was probably not a lactifluous, but I guess it could be, couldn't it?
Here's another one that's close to it. It was separate. It's
now, does that have a margin along the edge of the cap? Is it kind of hairy? Are there some little fine hairs there? Sometimes it helps to take your your glass.
Is- Did you
So
find that one? Did you find that one close by the others, George?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what's the color of the cap? Is it sort of yellowish?
There's a little hairy around the edge of it. Yeah, you can see it.
Okay.
Around the edge of the cap,
Yeah, around
and
that.
it is pretty zonate, isn't it?
Yeah, scratch
I don't
the gills, got a fingernail, knife or something. See if it turns a lavender color.
It ice on it, the gills really tears apart. You know, it's really moist and tears apart.
Yeah, one thing that's happening on these lactarius, we've had so much rain here, Jay, and I'm sure
Yeah.
George probably has too, where he is,
Yeah, it's
that
really,
everything's kind of sopping wet, and it's I'm getting a little lactation on mine. You can see those. Can you all see those little droplets? Those little white droplets? Yeah.
yeah. I went to look at yesterday afternoon, and actually I got wet. It rained me out, and I had to quit.
So
So,
go
go
ahead, Steve, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go.
Well, what color are the gills? Do they stain? What color do they stain, George?
They don't really stain. They just kind of fall apart. It's kind of,
Okay, they detach from the cap.
Probably
You don't
there's
see
some moist.
yeah, there's some moist and just kind of break it all apart.
So were you thinking maybe speciosus, Steve? Is that where you were headed?
That's what
or-
I have here. Yeah, but I don't know
Okay.
about it for sure. If it's hairy margin, it might be. Yeah, and it's
That's-
zonate cap.
When you said that, and I looked at the zonation on it, that's kind of what I thought it might be, but
Yeah.
he's not seeing any lavender discoloration on the gills yet, so don't know. Anyway, that's a name we threw out, George. Lactaria speciosus. So you might check in your books later and see if it possibly matches up.
And by the way, when Jay first started coming around here, gosh, that's been 15 years or so ago. And Jay, I don't think had probably collected mushrooms too much in the Appalachians at that time, maybe some. But when we first were finding that, we usually find them under hemlock. Do you know if you were under hemlock at all today, George?
It's mostly just some pine, oak, stuff like that.
Okay. But when we first found that mushroom, we didn't have, like today we have this milk mushroom book, which has all, you know, a really thorough, like Jay's book with Amanitas. This is a book just on Lactarius. And we didn't have that at that time. We just had, I think we were using, what was it? The Alexander Smith, wasn't it? That Lactarius book that was more of a technical book, wasn't it, Jay?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so there are no pictures in it or anything. And we determined it was one of 3 different species at that time. And as we kept finding it, we kept looking at it and working on it. And we finally determined that it's speciosus. And so now when we find it in this area, that's usually the name that we put on it when it's like that. So, yeah.
Now, see one
So
advantage.
Jay and I had, yeah, what?
So see one advantage of recording this when you
Yeah.
go back and watch it again, and you can help you remember to if you refresh yourself on it when you.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so Lactarius speciosus is one that Jay and I sleuthed for a long time on, and we finally figured it out. And it's one of those, if you really work on a mushroom like that, you probably won't forget it, especially if you keep finding it over and over, which that one's fairly common. And it starts to get more common this time of year as we start getting these cooler nights, like up here on the plateau.
So
Okay,
Steve,
so, yes,
do you remember the lookalikes to speciosus?
not off the top of my head. Do you, Jay?
Yes.
What were they?
Dubious is one of them, I think. The other is representaneous, found
I
up in
remember
the north.
representaneous. I think you made up the other one, or you're mistaken.
No, it's there. It was in the monograph. Yeah.
Okay, representaneous. I do.
Pyrogalis.
What?
What about pyrogalis? Do they not use that anymore?
That's a separate species. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But it's similar.
Pyrogalis means fire, I think. Yeah. I don't know, very intensely acrid. It's more of a bluish gray coloration, strong zonation, and very, very acrid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next, Hannah, what you got there? Show us your favorite one.
Yeah, we'll do. So just the one I'm going to show you is this. And Steve, real quick, I'm going to turn off my video and send you an email.
Okay.
Because I'm on my phone.
Okay.
And so, but I do have some better pictures. I think that would just make it a little easier.
Okay.
But I live on the back of Signal Mountain, close to Dunlap. So right across from the Cumberland Plateau. All right, I just sent that email to you. And in our area, I live mostly where there's been heavy logging. But when I've been able to do my mushroom hunting, I'm next to a creek. So this is the one I want to share with you guys. It's very tall, as you can see. It's got a very thin stem, and the cap has a really slight umbo, as you can see, but it's really not that pronounced. I've never found more than one at a time, but they're always about this large. And so, on the gills,
right?
Like,
they're not crowded, right? They're sort of distant. You found it growing near a stump?
No, well, yeah, it's pretty close. And I think, Steve, I sent you a picture of it coming out of the ground. Maybe not. If not, I can. But
yeah, no, it's what's happening is it's just slow to download. It's probably a pretty big file, and it's just slow to download on my computer. So my inbox is still processing it.
But it seems to me to be terrestrial, but close to an old tree I couldn't identify because it was just a stump.
Actually, it's growing deep in the ground on a root or something. It's saprobus.
Okay.
The cap is sort of viscid, sort of sticky, is it not?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but now that you say it, it is a little bit.
Right.
And what I found interesting was that on the gills, there's very clear brown coloring on the edge of each.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, very clear. It's.
I can't see that feature, but I knew what genus it was in, but now I know what species it is.
It's
very
so it has very what?
It's very beautiful. Just the brown in each gill. I hadn't seen that.
What you call that? There's a word for that. It's called Janie. Do you remember what that's called? Put you on the spot. When the gills they're dark on the edge like that. She wasn't.
No, I don't remember.
Rachel can tell us.
Call them marginet gills.
Margini gills?
Marginet. Yeah.
Marginet or marginate, like marginate. Yeah.
Okay.
So the edge of the gills have a brownish color, right?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah, we don't. That's not as common. That species is not as common in Missouri, Arkansas, but I have seen it on the plateau before, on the Cumberland Plateau. Oh yeah. Yes, I see it now. Okay, Steve, are you ready to profile it?
Sure.
You got it? Should be at Michael Quo's website.
Yeah, you know what? Now that one is.
He calls it Hymenopellis.
It's not Furfuraceae, is it?
No, it's Rubobrunescens with those brown marginate gills. Rubobrunescens.
Hannah, we've tried to dig one today. Well, I'm not sure it's the same species, but it's in that family, and the root can be longer than what is sticking out of the ground.
And I do think I have a little bit of the root here.
Well, the root is a lot like the stipe, but it just goes straight down into the ground, and it can be like a foot long in the ground.
Wow.
And we tried to dig one so we could show everybody the root, but it's hard in a forest. You get into all the little tangle of little roots in the ground, and we couldn't get one out that was very, very good. So.
And you can see in this picture those marginate gills where they're white gills, but the edges of them are dark, and so they call that marginate. And that's kind of I'd say it's a pretty unusual feature. You don't see it on a lot of mushrooms, but you do see it occasionally, and that can really be, like in this case, the defining feature of that mushroom, because Jay and I and Rachel and Janie and Tony and I were probably thinking that was probably Hymenopelus perforatia, right? Until we found out it had the marginate
Hey,
gills,
Steve,
right?
did any of those images show the root? Did
No,
any of them have the
not on there.
Okay.
So when
here's
I
one.
see these
I've got
again,
one. What's that?
well, I was just gonna say, so when I see these again, I mean, I'm not always probably gonna pick them. I try not to, but
Well,
if
you can take your digger and try to dig up the root like that.
the root,
So here's a picture. It's not real clear, but you can see the root going down.
Oh,
And
wow.
they can, yeah. So they can go really deep into the ground. And by the way, that's a great mushroom to do a spore print with, because they will always give you a great big old huge white spore print. So have you ever done a spore print before?
I've done a few,
Try that
to
one.
varied success.
Yeah, you
Will
could
do.
try that one on a black piece of construction paper. And I had a great big huge Hymenopelus one time, and I laid it on there and got the most beautiful spore print, almost one that you could frame. So
Cool.
yeah.
I have a question for Jay or Rachel or somebody. We keep saying this, the underground part is the root, but it's not really a root, right? Is there another name for it?
I
It's
call it a root.
it's just called the bottom part of the stipe or the stem. No, it sometimes, okay, Ron Peterson used the term subrhizoid or something like that, I think, meaning that the way it forms, it looks sort of like it was a pseudo-rhizoid is the term he used in description of Hymenopelus when he transferred a lot of them and wrote his big book several years ago. Anyway, yeah, you could call it a type of mushroom that forms a pseudo-rhizoid. Yeah.
I know that we call it root, but technically mushrooms can't form
Well,
root.
correct. But
I have another question for you. Is there a function of those marginate gills? Or is there a reason they're different colored on the margins?
definitely, yeah.
What is it?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't
Okay,
mean to
okay,
go to this. I didn't mean to go to this picture, but just to let you know real quick what that is. That is in, I think, Kathmandu, and that's what they do when they catch people who are not social distancing during the COVID crisis. They put them in a cage in the center of town for public shaming. So,
Wow. I
So
bet
they
it
can
gets
kill each other out.
what's that?
So they can kill each other out, get them out of the
Right.
game pool.
I bet it
Right,
gets
you're kind of
crowded.
changed that now you can't socially distance.
Right, crowded in there, so they yeah. Jane, you said, seriously, is there well, some people say, yes, there's a reason for everything that nature produces or any structure or whatever. But no, I don't know of any advantage or whatever. Maybe it's like the human appendix, maybe it had a function at some point, but whatever it was, it's lost now. That it's not used. Useless organ is what people call it. So no, I don't really know
Okay.
what the function would be, but it's helpful when we see it. It's helpful in identification of speciation and at times. Okay.
By the way, Janie has been coming with us for about 10 years, and I noticed on her first foray, she was very good at asking the why questions that nobody can really answer. So.
It's good to know she hasn't changed. Yes.
All right. So Paul Scott, Paul, can we see you now? Last time we had problems with his video and his, there he is. So he's going to come in for just a minute so we can see his beautiful face. So we'll try your audio this time. Maybe you won't break up, Paul. So I'm going to show your mushroom. I'm going to share your screen that you sent a picture of earlier. So here we go. And okay, Paul, you're still muted. I don't hear him. So till you start talking, I guess I'll turn this one over to Rachel.
Yeah, so these are hedgehog mushrooms. Has anybody eaten these? Because they are edible. They're related to chanterelles. And it's hard to say which species this is, but they're in the genus Hyndum. And they are pretty common. They grow on soil, so you can see that probably from the photo, even though they're laying on a log. They're growing out of the soil, and we can sort of classify Hyndum species broadly into about 3 categories. Whether they're white colored, sort of yellowish, tan colored, or orange like these. So we used to call this Hyndum rufescens or the terracotta hedgehog. But now we know that Hyndum rufescens is a European species, and what we have here instead are several species that are orangish colored like this. Another species it could be is Hyndum umbilicatum, which is also a orangish species. You can see that the photo here, the one on the right, has a sort of belly button depression in the middle of the cap, which is characteristic of Hyndum umbilicatum. But again, also other species that were formerly referred to as Hyndum rufescens. So it's hard to say exactly which species we have here without using a microscope. But even if you just get to Hyndum, it's a pretty easy genus to identify, because it has these little teeth under the cap. And like I said, a cap that's anywhere from white to yellow, brown, orange. And if you were to make a spore print, it would be white. And they generally, some of them have no smell, but some of them smell almost slightly chanterelle-like, so kind of fruity. So yeah, white spores if you make a spore print. And they grow on the ground.
Yeah, so I see that the one on the right, that big one, has the belly button, as we would say. That could indicate that it's possibly umbilicated. It looks like up here at the left, that one kind of has it too, kind of off to the side, doesn't it?
Yeah, but then you see the other two with the caps facing upwards don't have a clear,
right,
clearly umbilicate cap. So yeah, it can be a misleading characteristic. But
okay, so Paul, was this a collection? If we have any audio, was this a collection were they all found together, or are they in different locations? Probably, since he had them in one picture, they're probably a collection, I would say. We'll assume that.
Paul is muted, but I think he can, if he'd unmute himself, we could hear him, maybe.
Okay, George Wright, you have a question?
I just wanted to say that that hedgehog mushroom that I showed on the last foray, after it was done that night, I did cook it and eat it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so all the hedgehogs.
Very favorites, yeah.
All the hedgehogs, I guess all the Hyndums would be edible. And so for edibility purposes, if you can get it down to a Hyndum, usually it's good to be able to put a mushroom to species, but if you know it's a chanterelle or you know it's a Hyndum, you're pretty safe there.
Paul's unmuted now.
Yeah, those are all one connection. But by the way, Rachel, those were from House Mountain.
From what mountain?
House Mountain.
House Mountain. Okay, yeah, and your audio is breaking up, Paul, so you can mute again.
Okay.
And you know what? Since his audio is breaking up, if you ever needed to, you could always chat, couldn't he? So he could chat, and then we could see what you're saying. So yeah, we'll figure out ways to do this. What's that, Tony? You could.
I guess I don't know how you do it on the phone.
So while we're on the Hyndum category, I'll show you that I have a little Hyndum also. have a couple of them here. And those were wider. They're beginning to stain a little, maybe a little bit orangish, you know, with age since I picked them. But so being white like that, almost white, they're, you know, white or off-white. So would that be maybe the Hyndum albidum? Rachel?
Yeah, it could be Hyndum albidum. Hyndum albidum starts out pure white. Those are a little, that's kind of, I wouldn't expect Hyndum albidum to be any bigger than that. Usually Hyndum albidum actually are quite small.
Like that one.
But yeah.
Well,
but,
yeah.
So it could be Hyndum albidum, especially because it's staining only slightly brownish, not bright orange. There's another species, Hyndum albo-aurantiacum, that stains bright orange. And then there's another species that's white that gets a little bit bigger. That's Hyndum vagabundum. And I actually haven't found it myself, but it's widely distributed in the eastern US. So you have to use a microscope to discern the difference.
And those are all light colored then?
Yes.
Okay. See, so Rachel is studying these at the University of Tennessee, getting her doctorate and learning way more about Hyndums than any of us, we didn't want to know this much. We just wanted 2 or 3 names to be able to put a name like we used to do. We say, well, this is Hyndum repandum, or this is Hyndum albidum. And now all that's out the window. So, you know.
Well, sorry to make it hard.
Making it tough on us. Yeah, really hard. That's okay. Keep up your good work. All right. So we have been through everybody. Did I miss anybody? I know Joyce doesn't have any specimens. Did anybody?
You missed me.
Did I?
Before we move on from that, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
I have several.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. She does. And I'm going to show them for her because we're not trying to, you know, get twofers in here, but
focus.
My camera's a lot better. So yeah, go ahead. Hannah, you were asking the question.
There's this mushroom that I find a lot, and I think it's a tooth fungi, and the closest thing I could find to it is the Sarcodon underwoodi. I don't know how exactly to say it, but yeah. But the striking difference is that it's brown underneath pretty consistently. Sorry, let me see if I can get. And I don't believe that's because of any sort of spore dropping. I'm sorry, that's not focusing very well.
Yeah, I just want to focus on you, and I find just to try to get it in the center, but it's hard sometimes. And back it off a little bit because it may be too close. That's a little better, but it's kind of hard to see the teeth. Then you might roll it up kind of sideways a little bit like this. Yeah, that's good to see that cap too.
And the cap is what originally led me to the Eastern Sarcodon, but the brown underneath is different. So
those are kind of hard to put to species, aren't they, Rachel?
They are. It depends on what sort of trees they were found underneath, because they are ectomycorrhizal, as are Hyndum. So that means they grow from the soil, but they're associating with trees underground, tree roots. But those are Sarcodon, and they do have brown spore prints. So if you made a spore print, you would see that it's brown, and that's probably why the teeth are brown. And they're not closely related to Hyndum, like the last photo that we saw. So there's actually multiple times where mushrooms have acquired these spines or teeth as a means to disperse their spores rather than gills. So that's kind of interesting, right? We don't know why exactly, but some benefit to having teeth, I guess. And yeah, there's a couple of different scaly Sarcodon species. Does that one have an odor?
It's a beautiful odor. I mean, it's very aromatic and probably one of the more pleasant smells. It's very strong, stronger than even a chanterelle that I found.
Does it taste bitter? Like if you take a little piece off and just taste it?
I haven't done that yet, but I will.
It's okay. Those won't hurt you.
Yeah, definitely bitter, for sure.
I found some the other night that were just not really bitter, just barely bitter. It's a great big Sarcodon. And I fried some up just to taste them, and they didn't really taste that good. Now, when I was in Colorado and we found some, that actually the Sarcodon that I found there tasted much better. So, yeah.
I find these a lot. I've been finding them now for several months.
They are neat mushrooms.
I love So I'll take a spore print. I'd love to eventually be able to find out what species they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I am going to show you Tony's mushrooms. We can do this somehow. Maybe if I did it this way. Sometimes when you find these little ones that look like earth tongues, maybe they are earth tongues, and then maybe sometimes they're not. So this one actually we dug up, and it has the pupa of a moth at the base of it. So that's why when you find these little earth tongues, it's a good idea to dig them up. So what we determined, this is actually a cordyceps that grows on living things. Sometimes they parasitize false truffles, sometimes they parasitize spiders, sometimes they parasitize ants, all different kinds of things. But this particular one parasitizes the pupa of a moth. Let me give it a little more light on the subject. And then there's another one that's another one here that's in a, I don't know if I can focus on that. Get it way back, I can. Yeah. This is, what do we call, what form do we call that? The, what's
It's
the
the
form?
anamorph.
Anamorph. Tell us about anamorph, Jay, what you know.
Sometimes fungi have a what they call a asexual stage or imperfect. The older name was called imperfect and perfect stages. And the newer terminology is asexual versus, meaning they make conidiospores or asexual spores as opposed to sexual spores. So in the old days, before they had DNA sequencing, they didn't know exactly what the sexual stage looked like on a bunch of these. But now, since they have the sequences, they can make the connection between the anamorphs and what they call the teleomorphs, or the sexual stage. So, yeah, many of them make that asexual stage because they can still make spores and still propagate in some way. Sometimes environmental conditions, nobody really knows all the forces that cause them to do that, but they do that. The genus Cylaria, which is also an ascomycete, does that also. It makes some asexual spores in the spring, and then the sexual spores in the fall. So yeah.
Yeah. Xylaria is where the dead man fingers that we see in a lot of field guides is in the Xylaria genus. And here's another one that this particular cordyceps, it parasitizes false truffles. So it has a false truffle at the base, that it's connected to. And then sometimes, let's see.
It has golden. It has golden.
Rhizomorphs.
Golden thread. Yeah.
Yeah, they call that the golden thread cordyceps is the common name.
Right.
And then these are, I believe these are earth tongues. We didn't find anything that are, any host that we dug up. So these are actual earth tongues. These fall in, they can either be the geoglossum or the trichoglossum, these black ones. And then there's a kind of a yellow one that's the microglossum, but this is probably a geoglossum because it's smooth. The trichoglossum has little hairs on it you can feel with your fingers, and little tiny, they call it hirsute, little tiny hairs. But these will have to be worked up microscopically in order, looking at the spores and different things, in order to determine the species. And then you have to find guides, not in the, just the field guide books, but you have to find literature where there's actual studies on these that you can break them up and figure out which, because there's not really, I don't think there's any real books. The Ascomycetes book it breaks it down some. This one I almost thought for sure was a cordyceps, but we didn't find a host, so it could be an earth tongue. I don't know. It's a bigger one. Got any ideas on that one, Jay?
Can't tell with certainty, but
Hold it down on your white paper.
Okay.
Because it's blending into your body.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that looks like doesn't look like a cordyceps. It's flattened and it's spatulated at the top. So yeah, I would go with possibly yeah. It looks like an earth tongue, just enlarged. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to show, Tony likes to find these little cordyceps, and she's always looking for them on the ground. So it's, when you're out looking for mushrooms, you know, you look for these little bitty things and dig them up and see you never know what you might find connected to them.
And then when Tony finds them, she usually hides them from me because she knows I want them and she wants them too. But she's been good in the past about sharing them with me. So
Yeah,
okay.
You can have them.
So we've been around the horn one time now, so we're going to go back to Janie where we started. And we've got about, so we're at 4:20. We've got about, we'll probably go another 50 minutes or so. We'll go till 5 o'clock. Cool.
This is, I think it's Inocephalus morayi, or Entoloma is the old species name, is my understanding.
Yeah, very, very conic shaped cap. Yeah. The gills are pinkish?
I don't know, they're pretty small.
Okay. Well, I mean, do they have a pinkish cast to them? And I mean,
yeah, mostly yellow, but
okay, yeah.
Kind of too small to see, maybe.
That was fairly common in along the plateau. So yeah.
It had a lot of little neighbors. So is Inocephalus the new genus name?
I think so. That's good for at least through the end of this week. So the genus. No, it'd probably be good for a while. I think Steve's going to pull up a.
So Entoloma morayi was the old name. And that's the one he's still using on his. It's hard to keep up with all these name changes. Okay, good, Janie. Yeah, so the Entolomas are pink spored, and they usually have spores can. Let me go back to that screen because they can they have kind of odd shapes very often. Like this one, it says is 4-sided. Sometimes they're 6-sided. So you can see these spores under a microscope, or you know, usually with spores they're round or elliptical. This type thing. It's not that usual to see spores this kind of shape. So sort of unique. Okay. Jay, you didn't have any more mushrooms, did you?
Just that one, Steve.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Rachel, you showed one did you show us another one that you might have there? I kind of skipped over you, but you had showed one out of turn like I do all the time.
Yeah. So I have this mushroom, a few of them. So it might be a little difficult to see. This one is a little bit younger, so the pore surface, but this one that's a little more mature, pores are more yellowish. So this is grown on the ground under oak trees, and pretty common little bolete. Does anyone recognize it?
Have you eaten those, Rachel?
I have not. No.
Okay.
Is that are those gyropterus?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I were to cut this in half, which I did not, you would see that the stipe is hollow. I don't have a knife handy, otherwise I would do that.
So they're the gyropterus castaneus?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a taxonomic nightmare, Steve.
Okay, good. Kind of like what Rachel is having the taxonomic nightmares with the Hyndums.
Most boletes are also in that category,
yeah. I'm not sure we can use that. I mean, that's what people call. Yeah, it's a convenient name, but yeah, it's until it gets sorted out. Yeah, it's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the common name for that?
The chestnut bolete.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably castaneus means chestnut. So.
That's not this one, is it?
I
No.
doubt it. This is usually quite small.
Small, okay.
White pores that turn light yellow.
And I found a collection of these that were shorter and short and squatty that I thought might be those as well, but
Hang on just a second, Steve. Let me see.
okay.
Let
It
me
looks
see the
pretty
cap.
yellow. Is it?
No, yours look different. What color's the pores? White, aren't they?
They are kind of whitish, yeah.
Yeah, you can, once you cut into the stalk, and it's going to be solid. It's not going to be chambered like they are in
I mean, these don't get really a whole lot bigger, and see the stipe on these is really slender, and that's pretty. Here's a small one. You can see it's still pretty slender looking.
It's bluing. Yours is bluing, isn't it, Steve? Aren't the pores bluing?
No.
Okay. I guess I'm seeing.
No, they're not bluing. They're not changing color at all.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. No. The cap.
But you're not sure which bolete that is, huh?
No.
Mild taste. Well, actually, it's bitter.
Surprise.
Surprise.
I wonder if that might be a little Tylopolis.
Ah, could be. White pores, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take another bite to be sure the other one's bitter too.
Okay, so back to Rachel's. This is the Gyroporus castaneus. That's how I pronounce it anyway. That's what she had. Okay. Stay in order here. I guess, Sue, Gazelle, you'd be next.
Okay. I've got a red, this is past its prime, it's red. I think it's a bolete. The underside, the pores side is also red.
Beautiful.
I don't know what to say else. It's been eaten on. It's been laying over in the leaf fall below the trees.
You got little droplets on the pores?
Well, yeah, I can wipe them off. So yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty common, easily recognized one. Does anybody other than me or Jay or Rachel want to give a shot at that one?
Rusty eye.
But if you say it, you got to get the correct current name.
Okay, I just tore the edge off. Oh, and it's turning blue. Look at that.
It's Butyroboletus frostii.
Good, yeah. So Janie, you're right. It is frosty eye, and boletus is what I remember. I haven't learned this new name. Beauty riboletus. How would you say that, Jay?
Butyride, like buttery. Yeah, it's in the buttery bolete group. Is what they call.
But it used to be boletus. And
Right.
This is interesting. In the southern states, there's a Floridanus, similar species, with a cap not quite as red and a stem is less prominently reticulate. Reticulate being what you see on the stem, the very like a fishnet over the stem. Okay, that's a good one.
Boletes
And that,
generally edible?
sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. I know a guy who, there's the old saying, there's none of them that'll kill you, but there are some that will make you wish you were dead. So you can get really severe gastrointestinal upset with them. And if yeah, go ahead, Jay.
I'm sorry. There's some that are very bitter, like Steve just bit into that. What was a Tylopolis? That doesn't cook out. There are some that are known to cause GI upsets, and The ones with red, this one's fairly easy to identify having a red cap, but there's lots of red cap members in that group that people just want to slap the name of bicolor on it. And it's sloppy taxonomy and it's sloppy identification. So you really need to learn. There's some good edibles in that group, but you really need to learn which one are the good edibles, and don't try to eat the others, would be my advice.
Yeah,
Even if you see lots of them. But it's okay to take a small piece and do the taste test on them, and if they're very bitter, then you're not going to want to take them home and try to cook them, because the whole pot will be bitter. So it's okay to do that little taste test on the little piece of the cap and everything. If you're out in the woods and you find a lot of them, to do that, to decide if you really want to take them home and try to identify them later.
but make it clear that just because they're not bitter doesn't mean they're edible. A poisonous mushroom can be very
True. Thank you.
mild.
Yeah.
And also, if these, yours is a blue bruiser, so the blue bruisers, the poisonous ones are either usually going to bruise blue, or they're going to have red or orange tubes, and yours has red or orange tubes and it bruises blue. And so it's in that cautious category of boletes. However, that particular mushroom is said to be edible. So I would just say before you eat those, make sure you know what you have for sure. By the way, that particular one kind of has a citrusy taste. If you want to just take a little taste of that one, see if it tastes citrusy. And this would be the best way I could describe. Would you describe that as kind of a citrusy taste, Jay? Don't swallow it, just, taste it and then spit it out when you're done with it.
Yeah, maybe. If you took a big enough bite.
Yeah. Okay. Also, when people do cook boletes, if you know you do have an edible bolete, they usually peel or cut the tube layer off because it can be very slimy, and just eat the context of it. Yeah. All right, so George Wright, you're up.
This year's not a little LED bulb. I think it's kind of a puff ball.
Oh, look, he has
Both Georges have puff balls. We're gonna call them the puff ball Georges.
Oh, yeah, it looks like a little LED bulb or something.
So found and growing on wood, I guess, or the ground, I would say. Yeah.
The one I found was actually, it was in the woods where I found the other mushrooms. I know they're usually in the yard or fields or something like that. This one was in the woods where I found the other mushrooms.
Yeah. Anybody want to guess what genus it is? George, you're muted. George Lindemann. I saw you trying to talk there.
No, I'm waiting to get to hear the identification.
Okay.
Copperdon.
Copperdon. Copperdon.
Lycopperdon.
Oh, Lycopperdon. Yeah, I say Lycoperdon, but you can say Lycopperdon if you want. Yeah, so Lycoperdon. I don't know if those are the perlatums. You, Jay?
No, I can't tell just from the seeing them on the video. I don't know.
George Linderman, hold yours up again. And that's what it kind of looks like.
Yeah, that one has more the traditional shape of what I might call perlatum.
So here's the Lycoperdon perlatum that the George Lycoperdon on the right has, at least on my right, what I'm seeing on the screen.
Is that,
I think they may both be Lycoperdon perlatums, but
is that different from this one?
then which one?
Is this one an older version of that one?
That one, that's a different mushroom, different puffball, I think.
Altogether
Completely
different. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No,
What
that's
does
all
it
right.
look-
Is that?
What does it look
You
like
go
in
ahead
the
and
middle?
go ahead, George. And we'll just let you do your mushrooms now. If you want to do, yeah, you too, George. That's fine. Both Georges, since you have puffballs. I like it.
Yep. Yeah, they have.
Puffball Georges.
I would
Okay,
be
George.
interested to see if George L. cut that
And
dark
Hannah has some
map
puffballs
and
too.
see what it looks like in the middle.
Which one do you want me to cut? The white one or the brown
Dark one, the dark
one?
one.
Okay, well, give me a second. Let me go get the knife. I was waiting to cut it.
You might make a
Okay.
mess. So what you got, Hannah, while he's cutting? You got a puffball too?
Yeah, these were just two little ones I found. I hadn't really given them much thought. I was just looking at them because of the other puffballs. But they look similar. I mean, but they're speckled brown, but only very lightly. And then they do have that brown in the middle, and they're pure white inside.
Yeah. So they'll be pure white when they're young, and then as they age, they'll start to turn yellow, and then they're no longer edible once they start turning yellow, and then they'll eventually turn, really, I guess, dark brown. They get darker and darker as time goes on until finally, when they release their spores, they're dark powder. I had one too. So did Janie. Mine is different than your all's. I'm not saying it's better or worse, all puffballs matter.
If I knew ahead of time people were all going to have puffballs, I probably could have found some too.
So what do you got, Janie? While we're doing puffballs. You cut yours. Yeah, hers is white.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about the outside of it?
I just ripped mine apart. It's got little tiny brown
George,
dots.
I don't think I'd eat yours.
Yeah, no. See, that one's beyond. If it is a puffball, for sure, I think it is. I mean, I think it's.
Is this?
No.
Is this?
No, I think it's scleroderma.
I think it's
Is it
scleroderma.
really tough? Is it hard?
No, soft as can be.
It's purple inside though, isn't it,
Yes.
George? Okay, it's a scleroderma.
Oh, I thought it was a purple spored puffball.
Purple
Calvatia.
puffball. Calvatia cyathiformis is a lot larger.
Lot
And
bigger.
Yeah. So,
But now so what color do puffballs get when their spores turn like just one of these, or like ones we all have, the lycoperdons? This is probably lycoperdon.
I'm sorry. What did you just say? Jay, what did you just
So your first a scleroderma.
Oh yeah, that was my second choice.
yeah.
That one right.
I don't know
Not
if it's
necessarily. Yeah. go ahead,
Scleroderma
Jay.
citrinimum.
citrinum.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's that one, but it is a scleroderma.
Oh, I got that right. This one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay!
So Jay, what are the
no.
ones that get really big?
George's
This
lessons were coming in handy.
What's Janie?
What are the ones that get really big? I've seen some that they look like little loaves of bread out in
Right. That's probably the Calvatia cyathiformis. It will have a purplish
Yeah, we got it
brown
right.
spore print.
Good.
One of the few Calvatia species that has the purplish brown. They're one of the largest ones we have in our area. Up in the Plains states, they have one they call Calvatia gigantea, which can, the record was about a 98-pound one, I think, the size of a sheep. But we don't have those in Arkansas, Missouri, and the Appalachian states, as far as I know. They're more plain state, Kansas, Iowa, places like that. So our largest one is probably the Calvatia cyathiformis.
Thank
So
you.
way to go on your ID there, George. By the way, he's one of
Yeah.
my He's one of my mushroom students, my only mushroom.
That's not my
student.
mushroom. That was just adding to the other George's mushroom. I got the other one.
All right. Okay, so Hannah, what you got?
So I have no idea what this is. It's
We got this one right. It's
Yeah.
it had, sorry, I didn't know if somebody's saying something. It's gilled. I don't know if I can get a clear enough picture for you guys. On the cap, it's definitely got a pretty clear umbo, and it's kind of frosty around the edges is the way I would describe it. I have two specimen here.
It's kind of like a webby veil between the gills and the stem I see on that big one. Is there kind of a veil there? Web-like, cobweb-like?
No, sorry, that was just a little bit of pine.
Oh,
needle.
okay. Well, it could have been at one time.
I'm losing some light. Let me turn on the lights here.
Okay.
But I might should send you some pictures.
Yeah, I think we can gather enough from that to probably put it to genus. I don't think even with pictures any of us will be able to put it to species. That's probably a Cortinarius, isn't it?
And the gills are brown, not from stropping spores, but colored brown, very similar to the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are really the only identifying features. The umbo is a little darker than the rest of it, if you can see that.
Yes, we can see that. What field guide do you have in front of you, Hannah?
I have the eastern mushrooms of the southeast. And that was another thing I was going to ask, is I really want to get more into boletes this year because I have so many around me. This isn't a bolete, but I have a lot in front of me. And so I'm kind of looking for some advice on what books to get next.
Yeah,
but
this is the first bolete book that came out that was, has pictures in it. The North American Boletes by Sept et al. And then they came out with a newer one for just the eastern boletes of eastern North America. And it's right there, the boletes for eastern North America. So I have them both. I like them both. This one has more of the newer names,
Yeah.
Which one do you like, Janie? Do you have them both?
No, I just have the eastern one. I like it.
Which one do you like to use, Jay? The newer one?
Oh yeah, I use a new one. Arlene Bassett has posted on Facebook the corrections on some of the names or something like that.
Okay.
And I can probably send that to for the book. I'm sorry, for the book that Steve was just showing. I would recommend you get the one Boletes of Eastern North America. It was published like 3 years ago, I think, and it's the better one. The other one was published in like 2000, so it's almost 20 years old. So the one of Eastern North America is definitely the best book on Eastern Boletes that you could find. There's all, if you're on Facebook, there's also a Facebook group called Boletes of North America. Has some good identifiers on it that people post only pictures of boletes that you can possibly get.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, in any book recommendations you guys have, I know this is a guild mushroom, so it's very different, but I was just kind of intrigued by it today. I had never seen it.
Okay.
Cortinarius are really hard. I mean, I've never really seen a book that had Cortinarius. I mean, they're just so hard. Does anybody agree with that it's really hard to find a good book?
Yeah, there's not one. Roger Phillips in his older book, Mushrooms in North America, has quite a few, but the Europeans have some better literature on Cortinarius than we have in North America.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Cortinarius species in North America. They can be very difficult to put to species, and there's no really good literature or no good book that says like just for Cortinarius. But
if I could just ask, I I didn't even know how to narrow this down. So to Coordinarius.
I would recommend Mushrooms Demystified. Actually, it's probably 30 years old, so you could probably find a used copy for quite cheap. But it has a lot of information about learning to make a spore print, and then even just identifying to family or genus level based on spore print color and other characteristics. Yeah, so you would have to learn to use a dichotomous key, but he gives a lot of the author is David Aurora, gives a lot of good introductory information. And I think that paired with like Michael Kuo's website, mushroomexpert.com, you may not get to the correct species name, but you might be able to narrow it down a bit for something like Coordinarius. He actually does have, I think like at least 100 species or more of Coordinarius in that book. So he doesn't have photos of all of them, but
his book is a lot of reading, and there are some black and white a lot of black and white photos.
That's Mushrooms Demystified.
Yeah, Mushrooms Demystified.
Hannah,
yeah.
when you see those brown gills, I mean, that's the first thing I think of with those mushrooms that have the brown gills is the Coordinarius.
So when they're younger, they will have like a cobwebby veil going between as the cap open up, a cobwebby veil going around the gills to the stem that is very distinctive, and that's why they call it Coordinarius, because they call that a cortina.
Oh,
and
I do see it. I see it on the standard specimen.
Yeah, and as they open up, then that cobwebby veil will leave a little bit of remnants of that veil on the stem, so you can see some remnants. It's not really a ring, an annulus like Jay talked about on the Amanita, but you can see it's almost a ring that can just leave the deposits of that cobweb veil on the stem or the style.
Well, what happens, Steve, is those little fibers are moist, they're wet, so they catch some of the spores as they fall from the gills, and they collect on that. So it makes it gives
color, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you can almost tell the spore print color that way too. Just you've got almost an instant spore print, don't you?
Hannah, if you're not familiar with mushroomexpert.com on the internet, find that website. It's very good. It's run by Michael Kuo. Read the info that he talks about Coordinarius may be helpful. Now that you've seen one, it may get that's what it is about sometimes with mushroom identification. Once you see one and see the features, then the next one may not be quite as difficult to identify.
Yeah, I've never noticed that webbing before, but I do have it in front of me here. It's really exciting, and I love that website.
I'm going to go ahead and just go out of turn here. Maybe this could be my turn for next time, but since we're on the subject of Coordinarius, this is a pretty common one. It's a common one. It's a small one with a slender white stem, and it has a very sticky cap. It's purple, so it's a very pretty mushroom. Oh, you've got one too.
I do.
Yeah, so that's the Coordinarius, probably the iodes. And they say the difference between the iodes and the iodiodes is one has a bitter taste to if you just taste the slime a little bit. You know, I wouldn't make a habit out of it. You know, Coordinarius can be pretty poisonous, but mine's very mild. It doesn't taste bitter. What about yours? By the way, Paul, he came over to your house earlier and he was licking that mushroom. So if that's okay. That's an old joke. What I've found is I think most of the ones we find on the plateau we identify to the iodes rather than the iodiodes. And then another one is in the Dermosibes section, which the Dermosibes are known for being good dyers. People dye wood, and then she's got one too. See, she's just full of Coordinarius today. So you already know how to identify Coordinarius. Look at you.
If anybody wants to collect those, one's good for dyeing for me. I'll take them.
Yeah, and by the way, I found some Phaeolish Swenitzii, which is kind of a polypore, and I live near Sandra David, so she kind of gets my dyers. But someone who lives near Sue, you're around the Nashville area, aren't you, Sue?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
I have a hard time finding dye mushrooms. I'm always interested.
Right. So just getting off topic a little bit, since this one is a dyer. When I gave just a few weeks ago, I gave Sandra, she's been in the club for 10 years. By the way, she's been a
You introduced me to her, and she taught a class for a group of dyers here in Nashville. So, and we've remained in touch.
Yeah, she's really neat, and she sent me a little card with a sample of some wool that she had dyed with that Phaeolus schwinitziae that I found here on my property just a few weeks ago. And she had, I don't know, all this mordants and things that I don't really understand all that, but she gets different, depending on what she does with it, she gets different, a little bit different.
You can modify your dye with different things like iron and vinegar. Tell me the name of the Cortinarius you were holding up just
Okay, it's a Dermosabe section, Dermosabe. And so what she sent me also was, this was Phaeolus schwinitziae from the Adirondacks. So you can see it gave a different color. She wanted to show me, I guess, the different color dye that came, same mushroom, just came from a different area of the country and gave a more yellow dye. So
interesting.
Yeah. So this is a Dermosabe. And this one I think is they used to call this Cortinarius semi-sanguineus. And now I think they call it, is it the Hessleri, or I'd have to look it up.
There's Hessleri, there's Marylandensis.
Yeah, it might be Hessleri, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
It depends on the color of the basal mycelium, I think.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things, isn't it? So when she says basal mycelium, there's things going on that, like at the base of the mushroom, there's some mycelium, that's connecting to the mycelium connects to the tree roots. And so we look at that, and boy, you start getting into that and say, boy, is that yellow or is that white? So, but yeah, so, then there's another Cortinarius I found today, which is one of the few edible Cortinarius. And they start popping up in the fall, and we find them around hemlock. And so this is the only Cortinarius that we will eat. And it's a really good one too. And so the Cortinarius can be very dangerous mushrooms. They can actually, they have what is the substance in them?
Arelanine, I think it is.
Arelanine. So
Yeah.
it can delay. So when they say, well, I'll eat a little of this mushroom and see if I get sick, and then if I don't, I'll eat the rest of it tomorrow. Well, it can delay 2 weeks, and it can be deadly. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so you just want to avoid Cortinarius altogether, except for this one, which used to be called the Rosites caparata, and they've put it in the Cortinarius genus now. But it's a little different than the other Cortinarius. Very pretty one. And this particular one does have a ring or an annulus on the stem. So just thought I'd show you those Cortinarius.
I also have a Cortinarius that's easy to identify, relatively speaking.
You have it with you? Okay.
Yeah. It's found under oak. And the thing that makes it easy to identify, I think, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, is that the gills are pretty distantly spaced. And it's overall kind of brownish orange, I'd say. But it tends to have an umbo, like that little point on the cap. And
okay, is this the same thing? This one's been opened a little more, and that's...
Can you pull it back a little more from this?
And yours has a little age to it too.
Did you find it under oak on the ground?
I'm sorry?
Can you turn it over, Sue? See the cap?
So the cap has it's kind of orangish brown, but it tends to have like some streaks sometimes.
No, yours
a little darker.
Right, yours is different.
Oh, I think I've got some of those growing up right down over here.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
So this is Cortinarius distans. And so those distant gills make it easier to remember the name of the species.
I'm going to go see if I can grab one real quick.
So we're just going crazy on the Cortinarius today.
That means
Cortinarius
that
crazy.
fall's approaching.
It's funny because the last 2 times I don't think we had any Cortinarius, and I found these. I said, I better pick these up because we never find Cortinarius, and now all of a sudden they're everywhere.
Well, this one distan shows up really early. It starts sometimes at the end of June, but I think that's the exception more than the rule because most Cortinarius start showing up now and continue into the autumn.
Yeah.
This is one I just pulled up.
Rachel. Okay. So go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Sue. No, it's okay. All right, let's see the other, let's see the other one. Yep, I think that's closer.
That looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's an older specimen. It's faded.
It
on the
is.
color. Yeah,
It is.
yeah, good.
All right. So,
What were you saying, Jay?
Oh, I'm sorry. On Cortinarius distans, I've actually found it in late spring in Arkansas. I found it, yeah, like April or something like that. I found collections of it.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
I think it's
yeah.
one of the earlier ectomycorrhizal species.
Okay.
I haven't found it before June here, but yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
So Paul had another one here that he emailed me. So let me share the screen. And we have a little coral mushroom here. Found growing on the ground, I guess. So Paul, I guess your audio is breaking up, but
I will just say that maybe I'll break up again, but anyway, I found that was the one I showed you, and then I also found some that were very much more branched than that one.
Okay. I'm certainly no expert on the corals. You want to take a guess at that one, Jay?
I saw it. I lost the photo.
Okay, I'll go back to it then.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, thanks. Oh boy. Well, it's not a Lintaria. Maybe it's maybe Clavulina, but I'm
Could
not
even
sure.
be Romariopsis, couldn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking Romariopsis kunzii.
Okay.
That'd be my
Yeah,
guess.
I've worked those up before, but man, they're tough, you know.
They are. They are.
So Janie's going to show us her coral, and she's muted.
I don't have anything to say about it. It's just brown, and there were a bunch of them.
Pull it back from the camera. Probably a Romaria, Janie.
Is it growing on soil or on leaf litter or?
Well, it's got soil and leaf litter on the bottom. It definitely has soil on the bottom.
Yeah, it could be a Romaria then.
And Steve, before we go,
We are about to go.
I want to see George's other mushroom because
Okay.
the puffball was not his mushroom.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, he was just chiming in.
No, it wasn't. I was just adding to the
Yeah, go ahead. Ed. Well, he did. He did pretty good because he got a twofer in there on his no turn, but that's all right. I've jumped in there a lot out of turn too.
Three more good. I have three more good ones, but let me just because we got Jay still with us.
Oh yeah.
I'm stumped on the book. I mean, I get close, Jay, but I don't get there.
You know that one? Yeah, that one with that big old bulb sticking out is that's a pretty distinct feature.
Yeah, Steve's right. Look at the bulb, George. You can see it's sort of abrupted at the top. Have you noticed that? It's not symmetrical. It looks like you would think it would be, you know, more of it at the top, but it's sort of cut off, sort of an abrupt look to it. Can I see the cap just to make sure?
Where are you saying it's abrupt? Here?
It's flattened. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's flattened at the top of the bulb.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can I see the cap? See if there's warts on the cap. Other way. Can you turn the cap toward the camera? Okay. Yeah. It's in the book, George.
What page? I'll see if I got it right. What page?
The name is Amanita abrupta.
Abrupta.
Section lepidella in the back, and you should see it under Amanita abrupta.
Yeah, I looked at abrupta and I settled on Ameribescens, but I got stumped. Let me see why I didn't. There was
Well,
a reason.
the one thing that you did do, George, is, something more than when we started our lessons a while back, you didn't know what an amanita was. So
Yeah, no, I got the amanita part.
the fact
Yeah,
that you can, you see it, it's an amanita, you're learning and starting to put things together. So Hannah, she's got quite a collection today. She just happens to have one too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Another large amanita. Okay.
So by the way,
I was curious about this too. I knew it was an amanita, but I'm seeing that same feature, so that's really awesome.
Well,
right,
my question, Jay, when
go ahead,
when you're,
George.
because you see that too, is what the reason I'm looking at your pictures on page 223 for anyone who has Jay's book, is the stems are much more, this stem is smooth. It's very smooth, my stem. And the stems here look like they, I don't know what the right mushroom word is, but they're not smooth in the book. They have like leftover skins and all that. And that's why
that's probably environmentally induced. I've seen a lot of them with like lacerated partial veils and like that. Hang on just a second. Let me look real quick.
Another thing good to do too is, read the description, of the stem. Don't just look at the pictures, but read that description.
Read the description too.
Yeah,
okay.
and see what it says about that. And then also go to Rod Tullis's website, Amanitaceae.
And I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just when I went to the picture,
You're muted.
No, I'm
You're
not muted.
Steve.
Oh.
Steve's muted. Oh, I was just telling. Sorry, George. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying when I went to the pictures, the stem didn't seem at all similar, so that's why I moved on. But I'll read the descriptions better.
Did I mute myself just then? Because, okay, accidentally. I did that twice today. Yeah, so I would go to the Rod Tullis's website, amanitaceae.org, and look at their description too. And they're more technical, but it helps you learn those technical descriptions. And let me go there right now.
You say the last name again?
Rod Tullis. It's RODTULLOS, I think.
SS, two S's.
Two S's.
Tullis.
Tullis. And so his website is right here, amanitaceae.org.
Yes.
And so like when we pull up the Amanita abrupta, you can see this is the brief on it, and he'll have some pictures that you can click on, but he'll have descriptions which are pretty technical. But if you want to really get to the technical description, you click technical, and then he gets really technical. And so, yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Steve. Thank you.
Really technical, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, amanitaceae.org, Rod Tullis. He's like the world's guru in amanitas. And yeah, so that is the book, the new book that's out, Amanitas of North America. And oh, Jay, your name is on there. Jay Justin.
Really?
Oh,
Who knew?
I didn't notice that before. Did you write that book, Jay?
I wrote half of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, which half?
The technical descriptions of the amanitas.
So if you want to order this book, he's got a special on it right now, $50 postage paid to Jay Justice. His email address is, what's your email, Jay?
Justice, JUSTICE at Aristotle, ARISTOTLE.net.
So $50 to Jay, and he'll send you one, and the mail, send it soon before the election gets going, because they're going to shut the post office down out here and take away all the post office boxes and the sorting machines and everything. So.
And I'll say a few words, mention your name, write your name in it, say a few words, and then sign it.
Sign what? Oh, you will sign it.
The front of the book, unless you don't want it.
Inscription.
Yeah. Does it make the book more valuable or less valuable if we ever go to try to sell it?
Who knows? Who knows?
Okay, we are done. It's past 5 o'clock. I'll take if anybody wants to, I'll spend a little more time helping people with mushrooms. If we'll take a break for those who want to come back, and for those who want to leave, that's fine. We're going to end the meeting because I don't want to drag people. But Janie wants to come back. Raise your hand if you want to come back after this okay. A few of you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So goodbye recording. It was a pleasure having everyone here today on our Cumberland Mycological 3rd virtual mushroom foray.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye.